To the United States, where Donald Trump has threatened to impose 25% tariffs on imports from the European Union.
Prepare to uncover the hidden dynamics reshaping global trade. In this video, we reveal how Canada's strategic maneuvers are challenging established economic powerhouses and what this means for the future of international commerce. Get ready to dive into a story of bold moves, jaw-dropping numbers, and a potential reordering of global influence that could change everything you thought you knew about trade.
European Union is a different case than Canada, different kind of case. They've really taken advantage of us in a different way. They don't accept our cars. They don't accept essentially our farm products. They use all sorts of reasons why not. And we accept everything of them. And we have about a $300 billion deficit with the European Union. Now, I love the countries.
What drives the shifting landscape of global trade? Global trade is undergoing a profound transformation, driven by protectionist policies, economic uncertainties, and evolving market forces. The United States, for instance, has recently imposed a 25% tariff on European car imports, a move that has forced many nations to reconsider their traditional trade partnerships. This dramatic policy shift has set off a chain reaction, compelling companies worldwide to re-evaluate their supply chain strategies amid increasing volatility. Economic indicators now show that reliance on a single dominant market is fraught with risk, sparking a global search for more reliable alternatives. These protectionist measures have not only disrupted established supply lines but also injected a degree of unpredictability into international trade. European companies, in particular, are feeling the strain of fluctuating policies that undermine long-term planning and investment. As uncertainty mounts, businesses are actively seeking partners that offer stability and consistency, qualities that have become rare in today's turbulent economic landscape. This environment has created fertile ground for new players to emerge, challenging the old order. Amid these shifts, the call for diversification of supply sources has grown louder. With tariffs soaring, for example, a notable increase to 50% on Canadian steel and aluminum, the pressure on traditional suppliers has never been greater. The urgency for reliable alternatives is underscored by data showing that disruptions in key sectors can cascade across the global economy, amplifying the impact of any single policy change. The world is watching as long-standing trade relationships are put to the test. Economic fluctuations and geopolitical risks are further compounding the situation. Nations are no longer content to accept the status quo when sudden policy shifts can derail years of economic planning. The mounting pressure to secure stable and predictable trade environments is pushing countries to explore new alliances and revise old strategies. This strategic pivot represents not only an economic necessity but also a geopolitical realignment that could redefine global influence. Ultimately, the shifting landscape of global trade is forcing decision-makers to confront hard truths about dependency and risk. As businesses and governments navigate these treacherous waters, the need for alternative, stable partnerships becomes ever more apparent. The current dynamics suggest that the future of international commerce will be shaped by those who can offer both resilience and reliability in the face of uncertainty. How is Canada redefining its diplomatic engagements in Europe? Canada is rewriting the rules of international diplomacy with a series of high-stakes visits across Europe that signal a bold new direction. Led by top officials, including Prime Minister Trudeau, these missions go far beyond ceremonial exchanges. They are strategic efforts to reframe Canada as the go-to trade partner in a world disillusioned by unpredictability. While traditional powerhouses struggle with erratic policies, Canada's steady approach is winning hearts and minds on the European continent. During these diplomatic tours, Canada has laid out hard data to substantiate its claims. For example, the trade value between Canada and the European Union has reached approximately $119 billion per year, a figure that underscores the significant economic potential of this partnership. This impressive number not only illustrates the strength of existing ties but also highlights the enormous opportunity for further expansion under a regime of stability and predictability. These engagements have also served to spotlight the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, which has been in force since 2017. CETA has proven transformative, boosting bilateral trade volumes by 2/3, a statistic that speaks volumes about the power of well-crafted trade agreements. Canadian diplomats use these numbers to build a compelling case for why European businesses should look beyond traditional partners and embrace a more balanced, mutually beneficial relationship. Active participation in bilateral and multilateral forums is a cornerstone of Canada's diplomatic strategy. By consistently presenting empirical data and clear policy narratives, Canadian leaders are reassuring European partners of the country's commitment to stability. This methodical approach has resonated strongly in Europe, where businesses and policymakers are tired of the unpredictability associated with other trade relationships. It is a refreshing change that promises long-term benefits for both sides. Canada's diplomatic re-engagement in Europe is not just about creating an alternative, it is about establishing a new norm in international trade. With robust trade figures and an unwavering commitment to stability, Canada is positioning itself as a strategic partner for a future that values predictability over volatility. European audiences are taking notice, and the implications for global trade dynamics are just beginning to unfold. What makes Canada's trade proposition stand out? Canada's trade proposition is distinguished by its unwavering focus on stability and predictability, traits that are in high demand in today's unpredictable global market. The country's impressive annual trade volume with the European Union, amounting to roughly $119 billion, is a testament to the confidence that international businesses are placing in its approach. These numbers illustrate that Canadian supply chains are seen as a secure alternative in an era defined by economic turbulence. Central to Canada's appeal is the impact of CETA, the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. Since its implementation in 2017, CETA has catalyzed a dramatic two-thirds surge in trade volume between Canada and Europe. This striking statistic not only validates the efficacy of the agreement but also highlights the tangible benefits of reducing trade barriers and fostering closer economic ties. The success of CETA stands in stark contrast to the inconsistent policies observed elsewhere. Canada's strategy is further distinguished by its commitment to consistency. Unlike the United States, which has recently resorted to unpredictable tariff hikes, such as the 25% tariff on European car imports, Canada has maintained a stable and business-friendly environment. This predictability gives companies the confidence to invest in long-term partnerships without the fear of sudden policy reversals that can upend carefully laid plans. Such consistency is a rare commodity in today's high-stakes global economy. Another factor that bolsters Canada's appeal is its proactive domestic policy adjustments. A prime example is Ontario's decision to suspend a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the United States, a move that reinforced trust among international trade partners. These calculated measures demonstrate that Canada is willing to fine-tune its policies in order to preserve the stability and reliability that its partners value so highly. This flexibility further distinguishes its trade proposition from more volatile alternatives. In sum, Canada's trade proposition is built on a foundation of robust data, consistent policies, and strategic foresight. By emphasizing stability and predictability, Canada is not merely offering an alternative, it is setting a new standard for international trade relationships. This approach has resonated with global businesses, positioning Canada as a preferred partner in a rapidly evolving economic landscape. How is CETA driving economic diversification? The Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, has emerged as a pivotal tool in Canada's strategy to diversify its economic ties and reduce reliance on traditional markets. Since its inception in 2017, CETA has unlocked vast opportunities by providing Canadian businesses with preferential access to European markets, leading to a remarkable two-thirds increase in trade volume. This surge is a clear indicator of how effective the agreement has been in breaking down trade barriers and encouraging economic collaboration. CETA's influence extends well beyond boosting trade figures, it is actively reshaping Canada's economic landscape by encouraging diversification. With the enhanced access provided by CETA, Canadian companies are now exploring new sectors and markets, reducing their dependence on the United States. This shift is particularly important in light of protectionist measures such as the 25% tariff on European car imports and the 50% tariffs on certain commodities, which have underscored the risks of over-reliance on a single market. By opening up European markets, CETA has enabled Canadian businesses to tap into a broader customer base and explore innovative industrial sectors. This diversification is critical for building resilience in the face of global economic shocks. As companies expand into new areas such as advanced manufacturing, technology, and renewable energy, they are better positioned to withstand fluctuations in traditional markets. The data clearly shows that CETA has not only boosted current trade volumes but has also laid the groundwork for long-term economic stability and growth. The benefits of CETA are evident in the increased competitiveness of Canadian products on the international stage. With fewer trade barriers and a more predictable regulatory environment, Canadian firms have become more agile and innovative. This new economic paradigm is fostering a climate of inclusivity and resilience, where businesses can plan for the long term without the looming threat of sudden policy shifts. The agreement has essentially provided a platform for sustainable economic diversification. Ultimately, CETA is more than just a trade deal, it is a transformative force that is redefining Canada's economic identity. By facilitating market access and encouraging diversification, CETA is enabling Canada to build a more robust and resilient economy. The long-term impact of this agreement will likely extend far beyond immediate trade figures, heralding a new era of economic innovation and global competitiveness for Canada. Can the U.S. maintain its dominance amidst rising competition? The United States has long enjoyed a dominant position in the global trade arena, but recent shifts are challenging this status quo. With Canada emerging as a stable and reliable trade partner, U.S. policies, marked by unpredictable tariff hikes such as the 25% on European car imports, are beginning to lose their allure. This raises a critical question: can the U.S. continue to assert its influence when traditional allies are turning to alternative partners offering consistency and long-term stability? The U.S. has relied on its economic muscle to secure advantageous trade deals and maintain its leadership role in international commerce. However, data shows that its aggressive tariff policies are driving many European companies to seek partnerships elsewhere. As evidenced by the substantial $119 billion annual trade figure between Canada and the EU, there is a clear appetite for more stable trade environments that the U.S. has been unable to provide consistently. This shift poses a serious challenge to America's long-standing hegemony in transatlantic trade. In response to this growing competition, U.S. policymakers are under intense pressure to reassess their approach. The debate now centers on whether to adopt more conciliatory measures, such as tax cuts, subsidies, or new trade incentives, or to double down on protectionist tactics. Each strategy carries its own risks and potential repercussions. Analysts warn that further tariff increases might inadvertently accelerate the exodus of European businesses toward more predictable alternatives like Canada. Internal discussions in Washington reveal a deep divide over the best course of action. Some advocate for a softer, more flexible trade policy that prioritizes long-term relationships over short-term gains, while others insist on the necessity of using tariffs as a bargaining chip. Regardless of the chosen strategy, the reality remains that U.S. competitors are already capitalizing on the gap, using stability as a key selling point to woo global trade partners away from the U.S. sphere of influence. As the U.S. grapples with this dilemma, the stakes are higher than ever. The outcome of these policy debates will not only determine America's future role in global trade but could also reshape the balance of economic power on a transatlantic scale. With competitors like Canada offering a compelling alternative, the U.S. faces a critical juncture, one that will define its economic legacy for decades to come. What are the global implications and future prospects of transatlantic trade? The evolving dynamics of global trade, driven by Canada's assertive strategies and shifting alliances, carry profound implications for the entire international economic landscape. If the trend toward diversification continues, we could witness a fundamental reordering of global power structures, where the dominance of traditional players like the U.S. is increasingly contested by emerging forces offering greater stability. The data, from robust trade figures to explosive growth following CETA, suggests that this is not a fleeting phenomenon but a long-term transformation. The ripple effects of these changes extend far beyond bilateral trade agreements. European nations, historically tethered to American markets, are now embracing alternatives that promise more predictable and resilient economic partnerships. This realignment could lead to the formation of new, more balanced transatlantic alliances, ultimately reshaping the geopolitical landscape. As trade networks expand and diversify, the old dynamics of dependency are giving way to a more multipolar world order. Global supply chains, too, are being redrawn in response to these emerging trends. Companies are increasingly adopting strategies that prioritize stability over short-term gains, seeking partners that can offer consistent, reliable service amidst the backdrop of political and economic turbulence. This shift is set to accelerate innovation and efficiency as businesses adapt to a world where long-term resilience is the new currency of success. Looking ahead, the future of transatlantic trade appears poised for dramatic change. With Canada at the forefront of offering a stable, predictable alternative, the traditional trade dynamics are under threat. This transformation presents both opportunities and challenges, a chance for new alliances to flourish, and for global economic policies to be rethought in ways that prioritize long-term stability and shared prosperity. The emerging picture is one of an international trade ecosystem that is more diversified, robust, and forward-thinking. Ultimately, the global implications of this trade realignment are vast and far-reaching. As nations recalibrate their economic strategies, the evolution of transatlantic trade could lead to a more balanced distribution of power, with benefits extending to consumers, businesses, and governments alike. The future promises a reimagined world of commerce, one where stability, innovation, and strategic diversification pave the way for sustainable economic growth.